The top NFL draft analysts around the world are putting out their initial mock drafts here to kick off the draft season here in the National Football League, including Mel Kiper Jr., who has just released his first mock draft of the 2025 NFL draft season. So today, we're going to be breaking down everything that these guys have to say about what they think the Washington Commanders are going to do in round one of the 2025 NFL draft. And make sure you guys click that subscribe button, because we're going to give you guys in-depth prospect analysis on all the top players that the Commanders are targeting this spring, also positional rankings at all the positions of need for the Washington Commanders, and then weekly Commanders mock drafts where we're going to be predicting which players the Commanders end up taking in all 7 rounds of this year's NFL draft. So if you want the most extensive Commanders draft coverage anywhere on the YouTube platform, 100% free, the Commanders Report by Chat Sports is the right channel for you. So click that subscribe button right now. So we'll start with Mel Kiper Jr. here, who he has the Commanders taking Nick Scourton, defensive end out of Texas A&M, a really, really good run defender from the Aggies. This is what Mel had to say about Scourton's game. Scourton plays with power, and while he can get to the quarterback as a pass rusher with 5 sacks on the year, I really like this fit because of his run defense. Washington was chewed up for 4.8 yards allowed per rush this season, 28th in the league. But Scourton has the strength to set an edge against the run, and he finished the season with 14 tackles for loss and 11 run stops. And personally, guys, I love this fit for the Washington Commanders, all right? I think that the Commanders really like these bigger body defensive end types, and I think that Scourton certainly fits that mold. I mean, the size is really, really great, guys. 285 pounds for a defensive end. That's really good. I mean, there's some defensive tackles in the National Football League that play on the interior that aren't even as big as Nick Scourton is. He's got incredible strength and power, especially in his hands. He's got really good arm length, which is something you really look for from somebody that's going to be playing on the edge. The power rushing is really good. He converts speed to power better than just about anybody in the class. And then he's a 3-down player with a high motor, and stamina is off the charts. He can play all 3 downs for the entirety of a 4-quarter football game, and he does not run out of gas. Now, I think that the cons, you're definitely, picking at straws here when it comes to the cons for me. I'm a big Nick Scourton fan. I think he's going to be a really good player with the right fit in the National Football League. The finesse rushing could be better. He has a pretty good spin move, but other than that, his hand fighting needs to be a little bit better. Right now, I think he's a little bit too reliant on his spin move, and then the speed to power combination that he brings to the table on the edge. All the things that he does in that department are pretty darn good, but I think that, as a defensive end, to maybe replace Cleveland Ferrell as that run-defending defensive end in this Dan Quinn, Joe Witt Jr. scheme is something that could certainly be really, really good, and pairing him with the likes of Johnny Newton over the next decade, I think could do some really good things here in Washington. So grade the pick for me down there in the comments section. Grade Mel Kiper Jr.'s pick of Nick Scourton in round 1 for the Washington Commanders. Give me an A, a B, a C, a D, or an F for this pick for today's pinned comment. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds, and when that happens, take advantage of that time by letting me know what's your grade for Mel Kiper Jr.'s pick. Now we move on to the other ESPN draft analysts. We'll start with Field Yates here, who claims that the Commanders are going to take Luther Burden III, the wide receiver out of Missouri, with their first-round selection this year. And although I would love this, I think Burden is going to go probably in the top 15. I think he's a top 15 caliber talent. He gets open all the time. He's great after the catch. He's got some really great ability to come down with tough catches down the sideline as well. He's a little bit undersized, but I think he's got the skill set of being a really, really good wide receiver in the National Football League. And I think that he's likely gone by the time that the Commanders end up picking. Now with the Commanders in the NFC Championship game, at the very least, they're going to be picking 29th, all right? And they might even be picking 31st or even 32nd, all right, depending on how this season ends. I really don't think Luther Burden III gets down this far, so I don't think this is a realistic possibility. But in terms of receivers that I think could be somewhat of a realistic possibility for the Commanders this year in the first round, Uka Muka out of Ohio State, certainly a wide receiver that could potentially be an option for the Washington Commanders. And I think Ibuka is probably on the higher end of guys that they could potentially land given their draft slot this year. But I do think he's more realistic than Luther Burden III, who I think is going to be a top 15 pick, and I don't think he escapes the top 20. But Ibuka, somebody that I would be interested in if I were the Washington Commanders. His route running is stellar. His yards after the catch ability is really, really good as well. He's a return man as well, so you can use him in that regard if you want to. The competitive toughness, especially as a blocker, phenomenal. All right, so if you want a running back that can run block, Ibuka is going to be your guy. Then the cons, limited perimeter snaps. He's played a lot in the slot there at Ohio State. He did play a little bit on the outside this year, so he can do it. Just he's got a limited amount of those snaps, so I think he'd be more comfortable as a slot technician instead of a true outside guy. The catch radius is a little bit limited. He does have the longest arms in the world, so you do have to have a quarterback that's accurate. I have no problem with Jaden Daniels throwing him the football because we all know how accurate JD5 can be. And then the functional strength isn't phenomenal, but he definitely tries as a run blocker. I do have a round 1 grade on him, guys, so I do think that if he is available for the Washington Commanders wherever they're picking and they are really in need of a number 2 receiver and that's what they want to do at this pick, I think that I would be perfectly fine with the Washington Commanders taking on Emeka Egbuka as their first-round selection. So coming up here on the Commanders Report, 3 more mock drafts to break down for you guys. PFF, The Athletic, and CBS all coming up here after this little sponsor break. But first, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Prize Picks, which is the best place to get real money sports action all football season long. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more than or less than on at least 2 player stat projections for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday, where every Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. Here's our Prize Picks projection for this week's national or NFC championship game, I should say. Taking the more on the passing yards for Jaden Daniels. That's essentially a free play right there, guys. I'm taking the more on Terry McLaurin. Touchdowns, I think that Scary Terry's done a phenomenal job this year. I think he gets into the end zone. I'm also going to take the more on A.J. Brown touchdown here. I think he gets into the end zone this weekend as well. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup when you download the Prize Picks app today. Prize Picks, run your game. So Pro Football Focus's Trevor Sikkema, he's their lead draft analyst there at Pro Football Focus, has the Commanders taking Arante Ursery, offensive tackle out of Minnesota, somebody that is a big body, definitely a little bit raw. And that's my issue with this pick, guys. I think that Ursery is somebody that's going to need a little bit of time, and I think that he could become even like a Pro Bowl, all-pro level left tackle in this league. I think he's got the physical skill set and he's got the frame to do it. But I think that, kind of like Brandon Coleman, he's got the physical tools, but he needs to develop. And I think that the Commanders heading into next year, they're going to be a win-now team. All right, they're not going to be, really willing to let this guy go through his rookie lumps. They're going to want somebody that can go in there, and whether it's Coleman, whether it's somebody else at offensive tackle, if they're going to take somebody to replace Brandon Coleman, it's going to be somebody that's pro-ready, and it might even be somebody like a veteran in free agency. I don't think they're going to take their first-round draft pick and take kind of another developmental tackle with this pick when there's so many other things that they could use with this pick or do with this pick that can help this team immediately. Then CBS has the Commanders taking Carson. I'm going to butcher this one, but Schlesinger. There we go. We got the linebacker from UCLA, and he's a very good player, man. He's undersized, but he's a great leader. I love his football IQ. He's always in the right spot, and I love his competitive toughness. He's not afraid to put his face in the fan. He's a fluid athlete. He's actually pretty darn good in pass coverage. I think that's going to be kind of his thing in the National Football League, is that he's going to be really good either in man or in zone. He's going to be able to be a guy that people can rely on in coverage against the pass. The high football IQ is phenomenal. He's a really good blitzing linebacker as well. He shoots into gaps with really good athleticism as well. And then he was a team captain, so the leadership is off the charts with this guy as well. So if you're looking for a leader for your defense, I think this is the guy for you. But the thin frame, and then he does tend to be a bit bullish in terms of, shooting gaps, getting out of his run fit, trying to make a big play, trying to be the hero. That's something that's going to have to be coached out of him in the National Football League, because these running backs and these rushing offenses are just too good, too disciplined to not play disciplined in your run fit. And also Carson he's a good athlete, but he's not like crazy good of an athlete where he's able to be out of his run fit and still be good enough to make plays. So I do think that Washington, in terms of the fit with this guy out of UCLA here, is that I think they would want someone bigger. All right, Bobby Wagner is the guy that they'd be likely replacing if they take a linebacker in round one. And, this is somebody that, has a thin frame. He'd be more of a will linebacker than a true Mike, which is what you'd be looking for in a replacement for Bobby Wagner. So honestly, I don't really like this pick for the Commanders all that much. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. Which position should the Washington Commanders prioritize in round one of the 2025 NFL Draft? Do you want them to get a defensive lineman? Do you want them to get a corner? Do you want them to get a wide receiver, linebacker, offensive tackle? All the positions we talked about today, which one do you want the Washington Commanders to go get here in 2025? And then we talked about Dane Brugler's mock draft last week, where he had the Commanders taking edge rusher out of Marshall, Mike Green. I'm a big fan of this guy's skill set as a pass rusher, but I also had some concerns about his fit in the Washington Commanders scheme. I broke down my profile of Mike Green and then also Alec Aomaner, the wide receiver out of Stanford, in our reaction to Dane Brugler's first NFL mock draft. We put this on the video last week. I'll put the chip to this video in the top right of the video, and I'll also put the link to this one in the comments and description of today's show to get my full scouting report on these two players. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Thank you for making it to the end of today's edition of the Commanders Report by Chat Sports. I will see you guys later, and until next time, hail to the Commanders.